Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, obviously, everything that went down with Edge, he's been gone for like 3 weeks, which also, side note, that means he was up there soaking up solar energy for 3 whole weeks. But it makes sense, he's literally sucking up enough solar energy to compensate for all the Kryptonian consciousnesses that are inside of him, so there's that. But obviously it's like, well, what do we do about our lives? Well, do we just continue living normal lives, but Edge is still out there, which Jordan's like, you know, wanting to hang out with Sarah, but it's like, are her parents gonna be? He's like, I think. And she's like, Lois is like, you think or you know? And it's like, wait, he's just finding out about Lana putting up the house for sale. Jonathan wants to hang out with John Henry because it's like, but Clark is like, I don't want you around all those weapons. He's like, either you think Morgan Edge is a threat or not. He's like, all right, get out of here. You're making too much sense. Get out of here. So, which obviously, I think, for Jonathan, he looks at, because he's in a situation where he can't do what his brother and his dad can. He's not super strong. He doesn't have any of the Kryptonian abilities. So I think when he looks at John, what like John is able to accomplish as a normal human, it's like, right, I want to be able to learn what I can for you so that when the time comes, if need be, that I can protect my family, that it isn't just on my brother and it isn't just on my dad, that when the time comes, I can protect myself, I can protect my mom, I can protect all of us if need be. But John's kind of getting annoyed with him because sadly, Jonathan kind of points out like, oh man, this is pretty awesome. Like, you know, Nat helped make the suit. He's like, no, it's not awesome. That basically she helped me build that suit after watching her mom get murdered on TV. The fact is, like, the last bit of her life was just helping me do that instead of being able to live a normal life. So he was saying all that because he was trying to push Jonathan, you have the opportunity, live a normal life. Don't get caught up, like, because he's almost like, don't look at me like a role model. I'm a mess of a human being. Like, revenge is all I have. Like, I had lost everything else. So he doesn't want Jonathan to get so focused on all of this that he loses sight. Just have a normal life. Live a normal life as a kid. Like, I'm not the person you should be hanging around. I'm not that much of a role model. So, and I think also being around Jonathan probably just reminds him of what he lost. It's like, right, here's one of Lois's sons, and it's like, right, on this other Earth, she was the mother of my child. So, like, all of that, he's come to terms with it, but it still doesn't make it any easier on any level. So, at the same time, Jordan and Sarah, you know, their relationship, you know, it's like, well, is she gonna have to move? But it's like, no, I don't think you are. You know, at least, you know, there's no good price being given to the house. You know, even Clark trying to stop by to tell Lana to stay. It's like, you know, it's like, I love that little thing they did. Like, oh, he's like, yeah, I actually grew up in town. It's like, oh, he's like, yeah, you know, my best friend lives here. And it's like, oh, it must be a cool person. It's like, yeah, she is. And it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, like, without his mom around, Lana has become she's become the heart and soul of Smallville. And if she leaves, then, you know, Smallville really will be gone. But for Lana, it's like Smallville already is. There's businesses closing down. They've already had to deal with the backlash of Morgan Edge. It's like she's got to do what's best for her family, and that's even more reason why Kyle's doing what he do. It's like, yeah, it's like we're doing the best we can. Like, you know, it's not like they asked for this. If they could, they would stay in Smallville, but literally the entire town, people they once had who, you know, it was a town of people having each other's back. You could always count on that. But now, like, you know, that trust was broken by Morgan Edge, and there's no rebuilding it so easily. And now they're lashing out against us. So we can't stay in this town. It's so understandable when, like I said, your home is no longer a home, can't feel like a home anymore for so many different reasons. So, I mean, it doesn't help that Lois gave Christie to go ahead to run her paper, and it kind of paints the DOD in a very negative light. And he's like, why are you doing this? She's like, okay, like, I mean, even Clark was like, I mean, it is a little hyperbolic. And then Lois shoots him to daggers. He's kind of looking down like, sorry. It's just like, I love those little moments like, stay out of this, honey. He's like, almost like a, yes, dear, sorry, dear, type of aspect. But, and I love, like, you know, for Sam, it's like, well, what do you want me to do? Because he's like, are you questioning my motives? Because I am trying to keep everything top secret, because me not explaining everything, it's keeping your family secrets. And she's like, is that really all? He's like, now you're questioning my motives? It's like, so am I trying to save the world, or am I trying to keep my family safe? Like, which one is it? Because it seems like no matter what I do, Lois, nothing's right in your eyes. And she's like, I'm sorry. He says, I'm done. It's just, she's frustrated because it's like, these are people who need answers. And she even says it later on. Smallville is literally tearing itself apart. People are leaving. People, this town, which is so wonderful, which had a beautiful heart, is slowly being like rotted out from the inside out because of what Morgan did. And he turned his town inside out, and like she said, ripping itself apart. And it's like, these people deserve to know the truth, but then it's like, once they do know the truth, that's going to complicate things, because you're going to be like, wait, okay, so Morgan Edge is a alien, specifically he's a Kryptonian. Wait, isn't Superman a Kryptonian? Yeah, actually Morgan Edge is his brother. Like, they won't go into the ins and outs of that, but it's still a thing of like, wait, this dude's a kindred spirit of yours. He has the same powers as Superman. It's like, wait, he's been putting Superman's people inside of. So then, like, it could turn into a thing of people turning against Superman, and that was a whole big conversation about, you know, people's trust in Superman. And so, like, if they find out that his brother is the one responsible for all of this, it's going to like wane people's trust in him. It's like, wait, this guy's a, you know, he's a part of this, even if he's not directly a part of it. Like, he hasn't said anything and the government's covering up. It's like, I can see where the negative press could come about. Plus, also in general, it's like, Sam's like, if people know, they're going to panic. But it's like, I don't think there's an easy way for this. Like, people do deserve to know the truth, but like, are you going to end up doing more harm? Like, are you not going to be, like, who knows what the ripple effect, the consequences of letting them know the truth could be in the long run, you know? So there's that element to it. We finally get insight into like what happened to Morgan about becoming the Eradicator. So it turns out that basically with one touch, he can make anyone a Kryptonian, which I immediately was like, okay, so is that kind of implying, and we get our answer later on in the episode, but I was immediately like, does that imply he doesn't need people from Smallville anymore? And it turns out, yes, anyone on Earth can become a Kryptonian now. So he could basically, I mean, who knows how many consciousnesses were inside the Eradicator? I mean, it was like an entire planet filled. I mean, you know, once again, it depends on the continuity, because like the whole Argo City situation, but like an entire planet of Kryptonians exists in the Eradicator to a certain extent. So, with that being the case, anyone that he touches will become one. So, my thought is, whereas they needed the yellow kryptonite, it basically needed to be people around the yellow kryptonite for most of their lives in Smallville. That's what made them the perfect subject. So, part of me wonders, did basically the amount of yellow sun he's got supercharge it, so that basically now, because he absorbs so much energy, now it kind of compensates, so when he puts a consciousness in the body, he's passing along that energy as well. So I'm curious, like, does it make it so that like the consciousness sticks longer? Is it harder to like pop it? I mean, there is no Eradicator anymore, so like people who do get possessed later on, is there any removing those consciousnesses now that the Eradicator's gone? I don't think that's possible. So those people are probably stuck that way. But like I said, is it a more immediate process where it's like a bam, that Kryptonian consciousness is stronger because of the solar energy, and so it takes over, and immediately that other person's consciousness kind of gets wiped away, very much like Leslie's circumstances. Like, she's no longer who she originally was before. She's the Kryptonian that's inside of her. She has been for a while. So I'm curious, like, how that 100% works, what the science behind it is, because they never really went into it, you know. Because I assume, like, all the solar energy he was building up was basically for every Kryptonian inside of him. But it also gives him, like, because his entire, like, Taro, you know, Morgan Edge is gone. Like, he's nothing but like a walking Eradicator now. Like, there is no like part of who he was. It's just kind of like, he's kind of basically on autopilot at this point in time. Like, who he was, his own consciousness is gone, and he's just a blank slate with basically thousands, if not millions, of souls inside of him, type of situation. So at the same time, this is all going down. Well, before we even get to the Metropolis stuff, is in Smallville, there's a whole situation of there's a town meeting, Sam's trying to ease things over, but that's not going to be an easy thing because everyone in town is riled up. They need to know answers. They're curious. Obviously, Morgan had broken Leslie out, so obviously Sam's getting that news, and obviously Lois has to be up front, like, okay, Morgan Edge is free, and the reason why the DOD is here because we're trying to get some hazardous materials. Like, what material? That's classified. You're not telling us because it must be worth something. It's like, we're not no one's literally making money off of this. We're trying to dispose of something. We're trying to do something we're trying to do the best for Smallville. But it's like, you're talking in circles. You're not giving us specifics. So it just it makes people riled up even more of like, what are you hiding from us? Especially when it comes out like, wait, Morgan Edge, like, is there a possibility he can come back here? And it's like, honestly, we don't know where he is, and yes, there is a possibility, but that's why the DOD is still sticking around. And then you have Derek Powell's mom show up, and she's like, the government, it's like investigating my son's, or claiming to be investigating my son's death, but it's like, you guys have known the entire time what actually happened to my son. It's like, they can't really answer that because answering about Derek answers everything else. So it's like it's a thing of like, I don't think you can give them partial answers without giving them answers to everything else. And it's just, Sam's doing his best because he needs to protect his family, their secrets and everything. But also it's like he needs to kind of keep the integrity of Superman because he's one of Earth's mightiest heroes. So it's like, need to kind of keep the people believing in him. And it's like, this could like turn the tides of people against him. So at the end of the day, Miss Powell just wants answers about what happened to her son. Like, she has a right to know, and they're leaving before they can give answers. And it's just like, I don't think there is an easy solution to this whole thing. Like, so, but obviously the question becomes like, okay, so why is Edge in Metropolis? And it turns out it is because he was in, it's partially because it's the perfect breeding spot because it's like the biggest middle finger to Cal because it's like, oh, Clark, this is the place you like grew up. This is the place that you first became Superman. This is the place you raised your family. So this will be the first city we destroy, which obviously like Metropolis in the other world was the first city to fall as well. But it's like, it's just Leslie and Morgan, but he's souped up, but he's already made other Kryptonians, which I love that whole showdown. I love it at one point, like Clark and one of the Kryptonians crash into a building, that dude ducking. It would have been dope if they were able to spend a little more time in that like building. Like, I always like that in like superhero stuff that takes place in like a major city like that, when you actually like get to the insides of the building and like kind of duke it out a little bit. But also, it's like, yeah, we saw the beginning stages of Metropolis from John's Earth. So, and I love that, like, we almost had a repeat as Lois is doing her thing. Like, say, I love this, like, that camera lady is like, okay, like, Lois, what's going on? It's like, okay, Morgan Edge is basically hijacking people's minds and giving them powers. And it's like, super quick summary, let's go live on air, and as I explained this, and Leslie's about to kill Lois, and your boy John reconnects with the hammer, throws it, misses the first dude, hits Leslie, it comes back, rebounds, and knocks the other dude out. He's like, I'll never miss. I'm like, yeah. John to the rescue, being able to make up for, not being able to save Lois before. He was able to make things right on this Earth in that regard. But it's like, right, so close to death, and it's just kind of like, Lois is like, are we still rolling? And the camera lady was like, sorry, I literally blacked out for a second there, but yeah, we're still rolling. I was like, it's understandable why you literally that once again, it's just because even at the same time, Jordan and Jonathan are watching and like, this is how she died. Like, this is how their mom died on that other Earth. She wasn't their mom, but still, dude. But they couldn't even get close to Morgan just because of like, I guess because he's just generating like, he's on like, well, because there's also the things of like, there have been instances of like Superman like getting like super oomped as well, and that's by absorbing large amounts of radiation. I wonder, would he have to kind of go like full max out? Like, would he have to absorb like max amount of like radiation to kind of be able to counter like what's going on with Morgan? That might not be as strong as it was just because of the end of the episode, but we'll get to there soon enough. But maybe he would need to kind of like overcharge himself. Because I think there have been instances of like movies, like animated movies and comics where he's done that, where he's had to like overcharge himself to that point just to be supercharged in a fight. I think that's happened. I could be mistaken in that, but like I said, all the while, things on like the more personal levels. Obviously, Jordan and Jonathan trying to live up their normal lives. Obviously, Jordan having heard from his, like hearing what John had said to him. Like Jonathan's like, I am just going to live a normal life. Just be normal for like an hour. So, and obviously Sarah didn't really get to go to the party because it's like, things are awkward between like everyone kind of ignoring her. Like Jonathan and Jordan got invited to the party, but Sarah didn't. So, but she's dealing with like her parents, which Lois, because of what Clark said, it made her start second guessing about leaving. But Kyle was kind of a little more sure because it's like, the Kents, their friendship is good, but it's not going to put food on the table. But then hearing what Tamara has to say about him leaving, because it's like Kyle backed her when it came to her like getting a job there because no one else thought she could do the job, but Kyle believed in her, and she's like, we proved them wrong before, like I want to prove them wrong again, but if you're going to leave, I told that position that fire position that you're trying to get in another county, like I told them that I recommended, saying like you would be a good they'd be lucky to have you. So, but even he's starting to question, because it is the thing of they have built their entire lives here, because that was a conversation for Lana and Clark, where Lana was saying that Clark, she's like, at the time I would have given anything to make you stay, but you had to go off and have a fresh start. That's what we need as well. A fresh start, and that's what this is kind of meant to be. But it's also like, their entire lives are connected to Smallville, and are they giving up too easily? But Kyle gets the job position that he was gets offered the job position, so they would have to move. But for Sarah, it isn't just about leaving behind like Jordan. That's a part of it, but it's like, their entire lives are here. This is their home, and it's like the only reason why we're in this position is because you, Dad, because you kissed Morgan Edge's ass. And it's like, oh, don't blame your dad. It's not his fault. Yeah, I'm blaming you too, Mom. You guys are stupid. It's just, she's a teenager. She's lashing out, It's just because it's like her entire life has to get uprooted. In a place that she's known her entire life, I have to get uprooted. Not because of anything I did. Not because it's like, no, it's because you guys are choosing to run away. Rather than stay and fight for our home, you want to run away. So once again, it's not like they came to this decision easy, and both of them are trying to do their best for their family. I'm sure Sarah's also got her own resentments against her dad because of everything from the past as well, just how he's handled himself in more recent times. Aside from just the Morgan Edge stuff, just the drinking and just not really being who he used to be. Like, I'm sure all that kind of plays into it a little bit. And like her mom was just so, like the way her mom handled it a lot too. I think it's just like she's lashing out in that. It's just like, once again, as teenagers do. So she goes to Jordan, and it's like, Jordan's like, we can make it work a long distance. It's like, didn't work out for your brother and Eliza. The moment like it became like a long distance thing, she like gave up on it. He's like, well, they're not us. But she's like, I like us as we are, but I'm afraid that if we try the long distance thing, we're eventually going to hate each other, and she doesn't want it to turn into that. As I've talked about before, I've had experience with long distance relationships. Not easy, especially as a teenager. Never had one as an adult, but I had some as a teenager. Not the easiest thing in the world. So I get that struggles, especially at that young age. But that's also, I think, very mature of like, I don't want us to turn into a situation where we hate each other. But the same argument could be made. Like, you're telling your parents to kind of fight. Like, are you willing to kind of fight as well? But you're actually asking your parents to fight and stay. And this is you having been forced to leave. So, but it's still a situation where you're just going to give up, especially because this is something that's kind of been there for a while, but now that you and Jordan have kind of solidified on being in a relationship, it's like, are you just going to let that die? Who knows? And then there's the whole situation of Morgan going after, like, it's like, he's going to make more, and I was like, oh, is he going to turn Jordan, Sarah, and Sam into Kryptonians? Because I mean, he could still do it to Jordan as well by like possessing him, much like Zod was trying to possess Clark a couple episodes back. So like that was still a possibility. but it seemed like that wasn't his main target. His main target was Jordan. Because I guess Clark wouldn't be Clark already fought it once before, so they needed, I guess, someone of a weaker mind or weaker constitution, because Clark is a full-blown Kryptonian, Jordan's only half, so maybe like possessing him would be a lot easier than it would be Clark. I mean, he already fought it off before, so doing it again would most likely not be as successful. I was curious, like, at first, like, was like Jordan supposed to be the next vessel or something, as Morgan's pouring a lot of them into him, but it's like, no, it was mainly like to give his father a vessel. Like, he had to dump out enough of them into Jordan until like his father popped up to be like, he's going to be like the main consciousness in control. So I'm assuming Jordan's body isn't what it was before. I'm assuming like he isn't just in his half Kryptonian self. I'm assuming he's at full blast because there are multiple Kryptonians inside of him. But because of that, that's why I'm thinking like Morgan's body isn't going to be as strong. He isn't going to have as much power because a lot of, who knows how much, but a good chunk of it went inside of Jordan. And I think that's so interesting. Your son had to sacrifice himself for the Kryptonian people, but you made damn sure that you were one of the people resurrected. So I think that's kind of like the hypocrisy in that. I mean, your son was always a means to an end because you're going to make sure you're around as Krypton kind of gets to be born anew. Obviously, it makes you wonder, what does that mean about Clark? You know, Clark's mom. Like, she was back in the Eradicator, so she's got to be somewhere in there, I would assume. What about Zod? Like, his circumstance wasn't that he went back in the Eradicator. He's just straight up dead, not unless there's still some copy of him, but I'm sure it's like a one and done copy. So like that version of Zod, like Zod is gone forever potentially. Who knows? But now he's possessing Jordan. Now the question then becomes like, well, later on when Jordan's doing stuff, it's going to be like, oh, no, that's not Jordan. He was possessed, so that's where all the powers and stuff come from, so you don't have to worry about it. I was curious if they were going to set up a situation where, like, Jordan's, like, actually... Well, Jonathan was coming after Jordan at first, being, like, freaked out, and his arms busted up. Well, I was about to say, like, not unless some powers kick in, some latent abilities, but I was like, no, like, the red sun grenade, like, red sun lights that were set up, like, half a season ago by John had no effect on him, even though they had an effect on Clark and Jordan. So I think it solidifies, like, he is straight up just human. So I was just wondering, like, whether last second wise there were going to be some powers kicked in or something. We'll see. But obviously Clark flying to the top of the atmosphere trying to find Jordan, but he can't. And obviously the devastation of like our boy is going, like, how do we find him? Where is he? What are we going to do now? They have no idea what Morgan's done to their son. So it's like, it kind of comes full circle because of what they tried to do to Clark, and it ended up happening to Jordan regardless. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The next episode is, in fact, the season finale, so I am so curious to see how this ultimately gets resolved, how everything ultimately ends up playing out. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.